sponsored TV ads, what worked for ads in 2023 on Amazon, and what to look forward to in 2024 with Amazon ads. This and so much more on today's episode of the Serious Sellers Podcast.
How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Serious Sellers Podcast by Helium 10. My name is Carrie Miller, and I will be your host. And this is our Tacos Tuesday, where we talk about all things Amazon advertising. And we have an expert guest today. This is Gefen from Vendo. So welcome, Gefen.
Hey, Carrie. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm very excited to have you on. I know you've been on here before, and a lot of people really liked your episode. So we have some more good content for everyone today. And so for those of the people in the audience that don't know you or know about Vendo, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience, and then also about Vendo?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm the VP of advertising here at Vendo. So just a background on who and what Vendo is. So we are a we're a full-service e-commerce agency specializing in Amazon and Walmart full-service management. From an advertising perspective, we have kind of brought in those services across Amazon and Walmart, also to bring in things like programmatic, various retail media networks, as well as other marketplaces too. And so those have been incredibly growth focused. I mean, 2023 was a very crazy year. The team did an incredible job from a strategic standpoint, from a numbers standpoint, to grow across the board. And when it comes to PPC, as most of the people I hope know on this call, a lot of those different strategies rhyme. So we've been able to replicate the immense success that we've had on Amazon. We brought it over to Walmart, and then we brought that over towards the various retail media networks, as well as things like paid search and social with Google, Facebook, TikTok, et cetera.
Amazing. Yeah. So you guys are into everything. That's awesome. So I guess since you were talking about 2023, what are some things that you think worked really, really well specifically in 2023 that you might carry into 2024, and then maybe some new things on the horizon because of just the changing landscape and things that Amazon is introducing right now?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the second half of that question, because I think that vertical video is going to be a really big push for Amazon this year. I know that everybody's talking about that in the space. I'm very curious to see how it's going to be rolled out. I mean, if you think about it from a practical standpoint, it's going to take up more page real estate than the former video format. Now, they might have both horizontal and vertical in play. We also don't know where on the search engine results page it's going to show up. Is it going to show up on row 4, which would be row 4, row 5, row 6 on mobile, potentially even row 7, depending on how zoomed in your screen is, or is it going to be at the bottom of the page? And I think those are big questions, because that's going to place a big emphasis on where you're ranking. And so I think that leads into the first part of your question, which is something that worked really well for us, because we don't look at ads in a vacuum, right? So ACOS is great, but obviously this is Tacos Tuesday, and Tacos is the metric of your total sales.
Yes.
And so when we're looking at total sales, something that we brought in, and I know it's a little vague, but we really looked at the halo impact of ad strategies and how they impacted ranking and total sales, right? And so when we focused our ad strategy, maybe on a cost per customer acquisition model, maybe on a Tacos model, and we look to really prioritize, hey, where are we showing up, right? So if we're driving all this traffic and we have a 20% conversion rate, let's say on this keyword, are we tracking using Helium 10, of course? Are we tracking that ranking properly to say, hey, we started running these ads aggressively on August 1st. And if we have been tracking ranking on that keyword for the last 2 months since going aggressive on that term, where are we ranking now? And how have sales changed? And are there broader KPIs that we're measuring outside of just direct ad revenue? And that worked really well for us because we centered that around tentpole events. And this is a really big strategy of ours that is incredibly complex. It takes, a whole village to actually execute. But when we focus our customer acquisition and ranking models around major times in the year, so think Prime Day, think Fall Prime Day, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, holiday. And then, of course, if you're a one-off brand, if you, are ski related, then obviously your season is January to March, there are differences, but really peak seasons If you're able to focus your growth model around the times that are going to give you the most reward, then that worked really well for us last year. And we expect to see a lot more of that this year, especially as we all expect people are going to be more deal oriented. It's a constant battle for margins. So
Yes.
the better ranked you are, the more organic sales you drive, the better your tacos is.
Yeah. So are you also maybe sending a lot of outside traffic for that ranking as well, or just kind of utilizing? Can you tell us a little bit about that and what your strategy is there that kind of goes in with what you were just talking about?
Of course, absolutely. So one of the verticals that I oversee is paid search and social, and so that's going to be Meta and Google primarily. There's Pinterest, there's Reddit, there's now TikTok that can drive back to Amazon as well. I think there's two buckets. I think you have the always on external strategy, right? Which is the constant drip of, say, a Facebook campaign that's driving whatever the budget is, $200 a day, $150 a day, whatever it is, back to Amazon. We all know that Amazon is going to reward external conversion a little bit more. Also, the Amazon Attribution Program gives you a bit of a boost with getting up to 10% back, usually around 5 to 7%, but up to 10% back on each sale, which is nice. And then you also get a boost in your actual ranking. The influencer programs that we've run specifically for tentpole events, again, to go back to that first point, those are the ones that have really kind of set themselves apart or set those brands apart, the ones that are willing to have very strategic and targeted strategies towards high return on investment periods. And so you have the always on, which is great. That is a constant, and we run that for many brands. And then we have a few brands, usually on the larger side, that are willing to invest some serious cash into some of the off Amazon programs that are just going to drive as much traffic as possible. Those are the ones that see big gains, and it's not necessarily that you have to hit a home run with one TikTok influencer. You can have 10, you can have 20, you can have 30 micro that actually get you the same result, potentially for cheaper, but you have less risk with putting all of your eggs into one basket. And so that external traffic has been really helpful.
Yeah, I actually know some people in our elite group said that their ranking just organically just shot up just from their TikTok stuff that they were doing. They were
100%.
focusing on certain keywords in their title, and they just all the traffic from TikTok was really beneficial.
Yeah, and now there's actually TikTok Shop. So that's actually going to compete with Amazon. We've actually launched multiple brands on TikTok Shop. We're seeing phenomenal success with those. It doesn't necessarily directly translate to Amazon sales, but what we always say at Vendo, and it's the approach we've taken that has been very successful for all of our brands, is you can't separate your customers anymore, right? You can't say that an Amazon customer is in its own bucket and they're never going to be a D2C customer, and vice versa. Every customer, everywhere you're exposed is a form of advertising, and you can't force a customer to buy in a certain place. So if you're available on TikTok Shop and that's where they find you, maybe next time they're going to buy on Amazon, right? Or maybe they're going to buy on your D2C. As long as you're looking at the business holistically and Amazon is a piece of that pie or TikTok is a piece of that pie, then and your business is growing, then you know that your efforts are pushing the whole business up.
I was saying that I think that a lot of people aren't necessarily comfortable yet purchasing on TikTok. So I think that's why a lot of people are just going to Amazon. They might be like, oh, I saw this on TikTok, but maybe it'll change eventually. Because I think we're still seeing quite a bit of traffic on Amazon, even though TikTok's like not wanting anyone to do that. Have you seen that same thing?
Yeah, I can't remember what the exact term was. It was like, I saw this on TikTok, or I found this on TikTok, or seen on TikTok, or something like that.
TikTok, whatever the thing is, TikTok skincare.
Yeah, was one of the largest search terms a few months ago. And so to your point, 100%, right? Yeah. And that is actually, I think, more proof to my previous point, which is wherever they're seeing things, they're coming to other places, to their comfortable place to buy. And so if they're coming there, and from an advertising perspective, we're showing up where we need to show up, then we're in a good place, right? Because then we're going to get that conversion, and that you spent elsewhere. Maybe your cost per customer acquisition was slightly higher, but you drove that conversion. Yeah. And at the end of the day, if you have a good product and your customers are loyal, then it's going to pay off in not even the long term.
Do you see that a lot? Because I know you do a lot of DSP too. Do you see that a lot with DSP where you're kind of putting a lot into Amazon and maybe you don't necessarily see the exact, conversion on Amazon, but then all of a sudden their website goes way up, or kind of other platforms? You see
so a couple of points to that. So when it comes to programmatic, there is native programmatic on Amazon, right? So, and then there's also non-native programmatic, right? So we can use something like the Trade Desk that can kind of target any programmatic targeting across the entire internet, basically. The latter, yes, right? Okay. So the latter, we do see that kind of halo impact across either website, and you can also measure that, right? You can put in a pixel, and you can also put in a pixel on the Amazon DSP as well. So you can put a pixel on your website for Amazon DSP, and even though traffic isn't necessarily driving to your website, it will still pick up if there are sales on your website, or at the very least visits from that same campaign. And so the interconnectedness of this world is growing, where the advertising synergies are becoming a lot more intentional. And so you have to have the pixels on your D2C site, right? You have to be launching on TikTok. You have to be on Amazon. You have to be on Walmart, because if you're not measuring that, then you won't know if your sales are lifting across the board. And if they are lifting, then you don't know where you can take spend. Maybe you're bloated in one area and too lean in another, and you can flip those. And so to your question, 100%, we do see the halo impact from DSP. With Amazon DSP specifically, I will say the biggest halo impact is actually in the performance of the PPC ads. We usually tend to see, especially on our mid to large size brands, when we launch DSP for them, their PPC ads tend to pick up specifically in performance. So their ACoS tends to go down. And that's probably because Amazon, as we all know, is a pay-to-play platform. So they're just rewarding you with being further entrenched in their ecosystem.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I did have actually another question, kind of about just some newer things that are going on with Amazon. Have you started using the TV ads, and then also just the sponsored ads that go to like things like BuzzFeed and I forgot what it's called. I think it's they're sponsored product ads, but they go to publishers. Have you started using those?
Sponsored TV.
Yeah, sponsored TV, and then also the sponsored ads that go to like BuzzFeed or
Yeah. So 2 points. So first of all, to Bradley's point, we actually don't use packaging for Amazon. We use them for Walmart. We actually don't use any software for Amazon besides Helium 10, of course. But as far as management software goes, it's all manual. And we can have a whole 10 podcasts just on that, because there's a ton there. But as it pertains to sponsored TV, so that's something that Amazon launched at Unbox this past year. And the goal is to create, similar to how sponsored display is like DSP Lite, sponsored TV is like STV or CTV Lite, right? So they want to bring the TV portion of programmatic into a self-serve area. There's pros and cons. The pro is that there's no minimum, there's no barrier to entry. You can throw up a video and it gets blasted out towards a bunch of different publishers at a fairly decent rate. It's a little bit more expensive, obviously, because you're not able to put your max CPMs or anything like that. At the same time, you have no control. So similar to sponsored display, if you work with an agency like Vendo, we don't have any minimums on our DSP self-serve seat, so we're able to say, hey, if you want to spend 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000, you can. You don't have to spend 20. And so my recommendation is, if you're a very small brand, you're starting out, definitely test out sponsored TV. Don't expect, because they're usually non-engageable, or if they are engageable, the primary KPI and what they're optimized for internally is views. Then don't expect a strong ROAS. Treat that as a top of funnel approach.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you do have a little bit more budget and you want some more control, go into self-serve DSP. You're just going to get more you can choose what your destinations are, what your publishers are. You can choose your audiences. You can choose your retargeting. You can in sponsored TV too, but there's just a lot more control.
Yeah.
And so similar to sponsored display, it's a great launching pad, but I wouldn't say, hey, if you're going to take 10 grand and throw it into there, take 10 grand and throw it into DSP, you're going to see better results.
Yeah, that's very good advice for everyone, especially for smaller brands, because usually it's all, it's harder because a lot of people are focused on big brands with kind of strategies, and smaller brands, it's like, I don't know if it's time to do even DSP or the sponsored TV. So that's good advice about the TV.
Yeah. And there is no real right time. I would just say, hey, if you have some budget, if your ads are performing well, test it out.
Yeah.
We test as much as we can at Vendo. If it works, amazing. If it doesn't, then we know it doesn't. And maybe we'll test it out later on, but we can put that budget immediately into other areas.
How long do you usually test it for DSP? 2 or 3 months, or?
So technically DSP has a 14-day window before it's actually giving you proper data. And usually DSP, you'll know within a month.
Okay, that's good to know too. Chris Schipperling said, to your point about trust, people also want to see the product ASAP, and Amazon owns product operations. I bought a product from TikTok with chips from ShipBob. I'll say no more.
As a customer, yes, you can technically fulfill with Amazon for TikTok Shop. I don't have too many details on that, but I know it's possible. I don't know how much of that is being conveyed to the customer. And so that's a great point about trust from the customer standpoint. As a seller, it doesn't really take much more. I don't know the fees. I don't know what it kind of entails, but I know that I've heard that it's possible.
It is possible, and that's definitely you basically connect it to your Shopify site and then use the fulfillment by Amazon. But I did purchase something on TikTok, and it was literally shipped all the way from China. So I didn't know that was happening when I bought it. So that is kind of that's going to kind of ruin some trust, I think, with people. So something to think about moving forward.
And we probably shouldn't even talk about Temu here either.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, that's another one. All right. And let's see. Chris Schipperling has something else. He says, which is why you always KPI individual platform metrics, but blended CAC is so important when you do have several activities running to drive traffic and conversion. Completely agree
100%.
with what you were saying. So yeah. Awesome.
100%. We use a CAC model for a ton of our brands. We track new to brand customers on Amazon very closely, new and repeat as well. And we have lifetime value graphs that we track over multiple years to see what the actual return is for our clients.
Amazing. That's awesome. Would love to hear your thoughts on how to organize sponsored product campaigns where you have multiple SKUs in a category, independent SKUs, not variant ASINs, that share many keywords. When is it better to combine ASINs into an ad group and let Amazon pick the best for separating each SKU into its own ad group or campaign? Thanks.
It's a phenomenal question. And this is where you're going to hear the variation in answers you're going to hear shows that advertising still to an extent is a good amount art versus science, because there are differing opinions. And I manage my own brands for Vendo as well. And I've actually done both in terms of separating out and then keeping them together. So a couple of different things. Number one, there are always differing, differing attributes to a product, right? Whether it's a count, whether it's a size, whether it's a color. At the very least, you can separate out by that. So for instance, if you have TVs, right, you might have a smart TV, right? But you could have a 45-inch, a 55-inch, and a 65-inch smart TV. So right off the bat, you can look at the search volume for what does a 65-inch TV bring in terms of search volume. Okay, that's a separate campaign, right? 55-inch separate campaign. And then to your question, my recommendation and best practice is you can never rank and equally grow all of your products, right? You have to have a hero item or a hero couple of items. So for instance, let's say you go back to these TVs, you've got, 10 sizes, 35, 45, 55, whatever it is. Some of those are going to be bestsellers, right? More people search for 55-inch and 65-inch versus 24-inch. So you know that those are the ones that have the highest potential, and those are the ones that you're going to want to rank. So you might as well take those and maybe take 3 of them and put them into their own hero term campaign. So smart TV, et cetera. And then that way you're focusing the majority of your ranking spend on the highest search volume terms towards the few that are actually going to generate that sales and performance. And even within that, I mean, usually, think about it. I mean, how many brands do you see that have 3 products ranked on the top row, right?
Yeah.
It's usually one. And so at the end of the day, we are going to try and diversify our sales as much as possible. But at the same time, one product is going to win out. And so to the last part of your question, when it's better to combine ASINs into an ad group and Amazon pick the best, when it comes to your hero items, if let's say you've got 3 in that whole product line, the 3 best-selling colors, 3 best-selling sizes, whatever it is, put those into their own ad group. And then Amazon can choose, if you're, again, going back to smart TV, it's like, okay, if someone's typing in smart TV, Amazon's going to eventually know whether or not someone typing in smart TV is more likely to buy a 55-inch or a 65-inch. And you'll be able to see the conversion rate, you'll be able to see the performance, and you can say, that's good, that's not good, etc.
We'll go into kind of ad creatives like videos and stuff. How do you optimize those? Are you doing a lot of tests and split testing? What is your process for creatives and making sure
comes
to test?
So again, we have 5 ad verticals. Every vertical requires different size creatives. So we have a phenomenal team working on our creatives that can really customize to whatever it is that we want or need. A Facebook creative is going to be different from a DSP creative. It's going to be different from a Criteo creative. But to backtrack for a sec, specifically on Amazon, specifically for something like sponsored brands, because you have sponsored brand lifestyle imagery and sponsored brand video, right? Those are the 2 main creatives that you're going to be generating. And I will say first and foremost, first of all, by January 31st, all of your product collection ads have to have a lifestyle image on them. If not, they're going to be paused.
Okay.
So that's a note to everybody that's selling. You need to have a lifestyle image on your product collection ads. If not, they're just not going to show up.
Okay.
That's by the end of this month. But I've found from a video perspective, having a video versus not having a video gets you 80% of the way there. Of course, it needs to look like decent, right? But if you have any form of a decent video made by a graphic designer or a software that's good enough to pass for you to be like, okay, yeah, I'm fine with that, you're 70 to 80% of the way there. Obviously, that 20% for much larger brands matters. So that's where you bring in different testing, right? And usually that's at the discretion of the brand's creatives, right? We're not a full creative agency. We have creative support. And so what we like to do is we like to take their direction and actually make the asset. So usually they have a marketing team that's going to bring us either static imagery or video imagery, and then we're gonna scale that into, let's say, 3 different videos from that static imagery of just like slideshows or whatever, and then maybe we'll test out those 3.
Okay.
Now Amazon Sponsored Brand Video has different ad groups that you can test out, which is awesome. So you can do like 3 different ad groups there, and whatever ends up working, basically from a CVR standpoint, conversion rate is going to be your primary KPI there. Then that's the one that you go with.
All right, very good. We actually have something else from the audience. I sell yoga pants. Can I print my website on the product hang tag? Does it follow Amazon and Walmart terms of service?
I don't think it does. I don't think that you're allowed to drive any form of traffic to off Amazon. Don't fully quote me. I am not an expert in all of Amazon terms of service. I know the ad portion.
Yeah.
But if you were to ask me my 2 cents, I would say if you're referencing your website anywhere on your product and Amazon catches you, it's probably against TOS.
I do actually on mine have on our packaging our website because we use the same packaging for all different platforms. And I know big brands also have their websites in there, and they even have, things where...
And maybe it's not enforced.
Yeah, I don't know if it's enforced as much, but I think it's if you kind of drive traffic to your website or you're kind of contacting people with their info, but it is kind of a gray area there. So that is a hard one on there.
Yeah, it's tough. It's I know that on any assets you have on Amazon, you can't do that.
Right.
Like we've even made videos where like at the end, like we've just taken a video from their website and put it onto sponsored brand video. And it was like at the end, like the last slide was like buy on x.com and it got taken down.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It just depends. I mean, there's a lot of gray area. My guess is that's against TOS. Also, to your point, Carrie, if a lot of people are doing it, maybe it's not really a police step.
Yeah. I think the kind of differentiator is, are you trying to drive traffic away from Amazon? Or, I think it's also, when you think about big brands, I don't think they're all going to change their packaging just for Amazon.
Like how is Hydro Flask going to not, So that's also a good point.
It's not really, it's when you're like, you've got an insert and you're like, buy this on my site or, something like that. That's kind of a difference. Whereas if it's just on your packaging, I think it should be fine.
That's actually a good question. So do branded campaigns help in the organic rank of your product? It's yes and no. So when you're launching, 100% yes. If you're launching a new product line inside your existing product catalog, to leverage your branded campaigns is huge, or excuse me, your branded traffic with branded campaigns is huge because that's how you build your sales velocity quickly. At the same time, if you are seeing that a majority of your spend is going towards branded, then I would look at the CPCs and I would say you're probably not helping out with ranking as much as you could be for non-branded terms. Remember, Amazon will rank you based on how you perform on non-branded terms. If you don't drive traffic to non-branded terms, you can't convert against them. And if you can't convert, then you can't rank.
All right. Another question from Dauda De Silva. How do you harvest search term reports from a main keyword running as phrase type that generate tons of variations of the main keywords? Those keywords are all different with one clicks costing me $1.
Yep. That's probably arguably the largest source of wasted spend, is phrase terminology, phrase terms, phrase keywords that generate one click, $1, no conversion. You have 1,000 of them. You spend $1,000 and you didn't get anything as a result. Switch it to exact, pause it out, and then test out them in like groups of 15 or 20. It's more manual work. It kind of sucks, but if you take the $1,000 you spent, let's say over a month, and then you take 500 of that, so you save yourself 500, and you put it towards 30 keywords, and you test, and let's say you generate sales after driving 10 clicks on each on 5 of them, and then you use those as ranking campaigns. That's how you're able to scale the business. You're going to spend that money anyway. You might as well go deep rather than shallow.
All right, very good.
It sounds like he was testing me. He said correct.
That's an interesting test. All right.
Well, I'm glad I passed.
Yeah, you're definitely passing all these little tests here from people. Just on a kind of an ending note, are there any other kind of things you want to leave for people in 2024? Kind of final thoughts of, what to look forward to, what people should be focused on, and just any final words of advice.
Search volume trends. We use Helium 10, hourly, but daily, obviously.
Yes.
To look at where the search volume trends are in the space. And when I talk about tentpole planning, when I talk about high traffic times, it's just the nature of the beast that you are going to perform better at certain times of the year. You need to have a strategy that is able to address low demand and high demand to what you need your business to do. And so the more demand you're tracking, the better you're going to be able to prepare for that. And just a very simple equation or simple example, is if you know that last year you did phenomenal in December, then take the steps in October and November to make sure you're ready for that. And if that might mean taking or spending less in August and September, if you do have an annualized budget, then make sure you're looking at December in February, so you know that by the time August and September comes, you know what you need to do to prepare for that time of year. And so we have, for almost every term, we have 4, 5, 6 years of data at this point. You know what the best times of the year are. Obviously, things change every year, but we do know that, hey, if you're a holiday or a gift brand, prepare for that, right? And if you are a brand, some brands don't, but if you are a brand that has a hard dollar budget, make sure you don't get to December and you're out of money.
Yeah, that's a good point. Something to point out too about the Helium 10 tools, Cerebro, we have, shows trending, if keywords trending up or if it's trending down. So you can constantly check the trends and what percentage they're trending up and down. But then you can also do historical keyword searches for 24 months in the past. So that'll really, really help. You can kind of see year over year, the last 2 years, what happened, but then you can kind of project also moving forward based on kind of the difference there and track it that way. So definitely, that's a really good point is, kind of projecting out and making sure you plan properly your budget in the right places. Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Tacos Tuesday. If somebody wants to reach out to you, how can they find you?
They can find me by my email, gefen@vendocommerce.com. Yeah, I would be happy to talk anything advertising. Like I said before, we run ads. If you can run ads on it, we do. But we take a different approach in that we make sure that we are looking at your business holistically, and we're not just spending to spend, we spend to grow.
Very good.
And so because we spend to grow, we might recommend different strategies and say, hey, even if it hurts us, right? Because we take a cut from that. Even if it hurts us, say, hey, you shouldn't spend 100K on Meta. Maybe let's look at these different avenues or save that money for later on. We want to make sure that we are going to provide the best service for you guys.
That's amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay. So if you guys want to reach out to Gefen or Vendo, you need somebody to help you with TikTok ads or Facebook or Amazon or Walmart especially. I get asked all the time about Walmart, and Vendo is definitely one of the top players in the game for Walmart. So
we're one of the largest advertisers on Walmart. I think we have one of, if not the most brands on Walmart advertising, and we've just seen so much growth there.
And so, thanks again for joining, and thank you everyone for your questions and for joining us live. And we will see you again on the next Tacos Tuesday, which will be next month. And we'll have a different guest, but thanks again, Gefen, for joining us, and we'll see you later. Bye, everyone.